Yo, what's up? We're in the final part. Hopefully I'm going to cover this ever so swiftly. To get it out the way, it'll probably be just like half an hour, I don't know, because I can rap on. Hopefully it's not going to be too long. Let's just get straight into it. I was going to tell you about a dream, right? In the previous parts, please go check them out. I was talking about how it is people in the kingdom of darkness, when they are feeling incredibly persistent to get Christians, they innovate new ways to sin. Indeed, as it is written in Romans 1, they invent brand spanking new ways to sin, and in so innovating as nefariously as this, then what is this? Essentially then go back to the drawing board perpetually with us, okay? To force themselves in, because we are like beautiful uncharted land that has not made the mistakes that they make. Like people in the world, I don't know how many times I can say that it is so important for people to try as best as possible to give their lives to Christ when they're still young. I know a lot of people who grew up in Christian countries tell themselves that they'll focus on Jesus when they're older, because when they're still young, they want to enjoy their lives, sow their royal oats, do whatever. But when you are young and you don't give your life to Christ young, that's when you make the kinds of decisions that might even make it very hard for you to turn to Christ later on anyway. You become so embittered because of bad choices in the past that you can't even focus on God. Like right now, I'm dealing with a whole bunch of men that are trying to take me by force, now that they're in the middle age. These are men that one of them I know in particular, some dude from the US, wanted to serve the Lord, but he is struggling to truly give his life to God, because to be honorable and to truly stand with God is to leave me alone. He knows what God would do. He knows WWJD. He knows that what Jesus would do is leave me alone. He knows that the Lord would counsel him to leave me alone. He cannot ever successfully pray a prayer to God to get me, but he wants me by any means necessary, by fire, by force. And so because he wants me, he has abandoned what God would have him do and has turned aside to myths. He has turned aside to witchcraft. He has tried to use the methods of the devil to get what he wants. And this is literally rooted in the fact that as a child, when he was still young, he made the mistakes that he made. He wanted to just live his life, be la-di-da. You get my point. And that being la-di-da cost him so much joy. It cost him so much prosperity, health. It cost him a healthy life, a good life, such that later on, focus on God. It is therefore ideal to turn to Christ when you are still. In Proverbs 7, in the previous part, I read the admonition by Solomon as he is led by the Lord to young men to basically not allow themselves to be led astray by ungodly women, by women whose feet go down to death, by women who are like rottenness in the bones of a man and of men. And I was speaking about these females because it is precisely because of settling for such women in the youth of men that they then end up becoming the bane of the existence of good girls, especially when they're godly later on. They try to divorce their wives and take us as second wives. They try to dishonor God and break commandments, frankly, basically because they ignored God as youths. They ignored God as children, as young men. So frankly, really and truly, the best audience that I have, I can't say that enough times, is the Gen Zs. Because I am struggling to reach millennials and Xennials and Generation X. I am struggling due to the fact that they have made so many mistakes that they can't possibly focus on God. And this particular thing goes both ways. It goes both ways in the sense that both men and women can do it. When I was young, I heeded the admonitions of God for women as to what we ought to be. And I walked away from a debauched life. And so I have not now ended up a wicked woman. I have not also ended up an unloved woman that got married. I have not ended up in a marriage I can't stand. I have not ended up the baby mama of some dude I hate. I also have not ended up compromising, settling, cheating on my husband, having an affair because I can't stand my husband. Stood with Christ from an early age, and now I'm reaping the fruit of it. Unfortunately, however, I am perpetually pursued by men who did not make the same decision that I made when we all had a chance back then. And now that I am reaping what I've sown, eternal life, I am reaping joy, I am reaping a lack of regret from having sown righteousness. They now want to come and just climb that bandwagon and be lucky. I spoke about how it is that luck is the right word to speak of men who ultimately get good girls when they're bad men, because luck is a magic term. It is a satanic term. But miracle, blessedness, that is a godly term. So a man is not blessed when he, as a wicked man, ends up married to a godly girl or a good girl. On that day, he is lucky. He has succeeded in his magic antics. But a man that waits on the Lord and ultimately gets a good thing, a good wife, in and of himself having been a good man, is blessed, because that is a man that the Lord rewarded with a particular thing. It is therefore the prerogative or the responsibility of godly people to make sure that they don't find themselves being somebody's luck. It is the prerogative of God's people to make sure that they don't end up making some undeserving rando lucky. We can't just give ourselves to them. Asikwazi ukuziphonsa nje sizithele in the environment of people that are going to happen upon inhlanhla. We cannot make men or women, because it could go both ways. It is irresponsible. We ought rather pray to the Lord, seek his face to make men as women blessed and to make women as men blessed. Because everybody out here waited and was godly, a cut above the rest pious. Everybody here is out here getting a blessing from God, instead of one dude just unduly happening upon a gold mine, having never worked a day in his life, but now he's wealthy. 1 minute. Christians have got a prerogative and an incentive to protect themselves from making people lucky. That's what I'm getting at. However, just because we want to protect ourselves from making undeserving randos lucky does not mean that they will not try to get lucky anyway. Because people love ill-gotten gain. Indeed, the Proverbs are dedicated to discouraging men, young men, from partaking in fruitless deeds of darkness and stealing, that they might gain things that they have not earned. It's called ill-gotten gain. But these men that have not heeded the Lord's counsel as young men, of course, love themselves some freebies. So they will be chasing around an athletics track some very unfortunate godly people that will have to, and that's just the way it is. Unfortunately, we gotta make war. They've gotta run. We have got to become athletics sprinters, marathoners as Christians, because frankly we have to run from a world of people who feel entitled to us. The decisions we make at youth benefit us later on, and the beautiful green land that is bringing forth fruit that we are in our latter years is coveted by randos who made mistakes when they were kids. All of us, we were young together as kids. We chose right, they chose left, and now that right has paid off for us. They want to come in and just, plunder, loot, purge. They want to come in and drink the juice. They want to come in and collect the revenue that we have worked like dogs for. It's our responsibility to protect our turf. We cannot be making like the Jews and giving away Gaza, because the moment we give away Gaza, we are going to one day inevitably endure a future where the kibbutz are going to get attacked, where our people are going to get killed, and this will happen precisely because we literally thought we could foster peace with unbelievers. The Lord made it clear. He made it clear that we must not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. He made it clear that we are friendship with the world is enmity with God. He made it clear that no fellowship does there exist between light and darkness, that we ought not partake in the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. That no wicked thing should be found on our tongues, that we should not even allow the appearance of sin to ruminate our veins. We should just basically be ye separate. Be ye separate. Be holy, for I am holy. Done deal. It's a done thing. We are not even out here trying to negotiate. However, it does not mean just because we won't negotiate that people won't try to essentially break down our fortress. It is an impregnable fortress insofar as you hold on to God. Can't nobody pierce through it. Even an impregnable fortress can have the residents therein make a decision to take a stroll on the outside. So if you decide to leave your impregnable fortress and stroll the outside, you're going to find yourself married to an unbeliever. You're going to find yourself being regarded as a diva for just being Christian because you're married to an unbeliever. And people find your godliness diva-ish. They find you stifling. You're like Jabu's dogmatic wife. Imagine that. Your husband is still so worldly that he can hang out with worldly women and worldly men, and they find you stuck up. That's what happens when you leave your impregnable fortress. Jabu is constantly going to get teased for his stuck-up wife. Who in the world wants that? Who? Coupled with the fact that Jabu is just a lucky bugger that ought not have had you. Now that we have said that, granted, therefore, that these people will always try to break down whatever impregnable fortress we have. Ours is to not be so scared about hearing the booms, the bangs and the pows outside of our impregnable fortress. It is ours to make sure that we don't run outside to see what's going on. We gotta hold fort. Having done all, stand therefore. For our adversary, the devil, passes around like a roaring lion, seeking whomever he may devour. Okay? So we have to be sober, we have to be vigilant, and we have to hold fort. We have to hold the line, because we are guaranteed victory. Is for us, who can be against us? He has given us authority to trample on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means harm us. Nothing should shake us. Like Mount Zion, we should endure forever, stand, never be shaken. That's who we are. Because what these people are doing is trusting that there comes a time when a Christian is so flattened that she wishes she was dead, or he wishes he was dead. There comes a time when we are so flattened that we are asking God, how long? And like Asaph, we are like brute beasts to God because we have seen the prosperity of the wicked. It is during this season that they try to infiltrate rubbish. It's when they try to get us to get out of the door because we keep on hearing boo outside, even though we're in an impregnable fortress, but we keep hearing boo outside. And sometimes when you hear bombs, you are tempted to go and look. You must just stay put, because this is what God guaranteed us, that he will give us breakthrough, because if at all we are endured for too long a season in a particular stagnant position, we will be inclined towards wrongdoing, and God does not want us to be inclined towards wrongdoing. Go and read Psalm 125. So God will ultimately break us out. He will not suffer us to be tempted beyond what we are able. So if at all we're still enduring, it means that we have been given grace to endure for now, but there will inevitably come breakthrough. Why? Because if breakthrough never came, if it never comes, and we're just endured insufferably and indefinitely through a lot of rubbish, we will end up sinning. We will go out of this impregnable fortress. We will experiment. We will dabble. We will do strange things. I am a 39-year-old woman. Apparently, allegedly, this is when it is that I should give up. I am 39, but I'm not 40. I also get my period every month. I might be 39, but I look nothing like a 39-year-old woman. And given the reality of the fact that there are women who have had children in their 40s, I should not be thinking that the lines have been crossed for me to now start partaking in wrongdoing, being inclined towards wrongdoing. Plus, my little sister is 17 whole years younger than me. My mother had me when she was 26. So if my little sister is 17 years older than me, it means my mom had my little sister, in her 40s. So it basically is genetic for us to, be out here in these streets having babies in our 40s. My mom menopaused only when my little sister was in high school. So if my little sister was born when my mom was like, please do the mathematics. What's the math? Am I really gonna go and grab a calculator? No, let's calculate this together. 26 plus 10 is 36 plus 7 is 43. I stand corrected, right? So my mom was 43 when she had my little sister, and she had her menopause, started getting hot flushes and stuff like that, basically was now declared unable to ever fall pregnant when my little sister was in high school, let's say 15. So basically from the age of 43, there is another 15 years of legroom that I have, if at all genetics have anything to do with it. So if my mother menopaused in her mid-50s, I am a woman that, based on observations I have made of anecdotal evidence that I can likely run with because I am my mother's daughter, I essentially have got all my 40s to fall pregnant. So now is not the time to be thinking, I gotta quickly settle for a guy because I want babies. Even if the rapture does not happen, and so me get everything I need in the millennial reign, bottom line is this. I literally have got all of my 40s, and I'm not even in my 40s yet. I am still 39. I am turning 40 next year. So the level of persistence around me is only based on biological years that render a woman a geriatric to still be doing things like these. And based on this information, I have got people trying to drop so many bombs around my ecosystem, making me settle with men I frankly cannot. Like, I am just not gonna be happy. Like, imagine being with a guy that doesn't even make you laugh, but because he's got the piping to put a baby in your stomach and you are broody, you settle for him. You're gonna find yourself miserable when the right guy rocks up and you're still able to conceive. When the right guy rocks up, or a man that you realize could have been the right dude, and you're out here in your second or third pregnancy at the age of 45 with a man that you don't love, and then you meet at the age when you are heavily pregnant of 45. That is like everything you ever wanted, and he's single, he's never been married, and he's your age. You will realize, and he makes you laugh, and you're like heavily pregnant, laughing at the jokes of a man, that if you had waited 5 more years, just 5 meager more years, that would have been your husband, and you would have had your first child with him. And yes, you would have fallen pregnant at 46, but it's still a baby. You are Sarah. That's what I'm getting at. So, insofar as you have not been taken to the end of yourself, the Lord has not made me gawk at the age of 50 without children. He has only made me gawk at the meager age of 40. And even then, I look nothing like my age. but it is apparently allegedly a big enough age. It is apparently allegedly a giant enough age for me to now be freaking out to a point of seeing if at all I can't just let anybody come here and fertilize my uncomfortable eggs. I got bombs landing outside of my uterus. I don't even understand what's up with the pursuit of my uterus. Leave it alone. Los my eggs out. Leave my eggs. What in the world are these people who invent new ways to sin, trying to break into a beautiful land, just like Israel is a beautiful land, that a torn apart Gaza is now salivating after, even though it was given to them. Yeah, they're trying to break in now that they see the glory of godliness, now that they have sowed their royal oats, now that they have drank the juice and left the plastic bag on the floor to be picked up by somebody else later, littering and all that jazz. Now that they have wasted their land, just like the Palestinians have literally wasted Gaza. They've wasted it. They are going to want to enter into your land. If at all you give yourself away, as a Christian woman, you compromise because you're looking at your biological clock or whatever, so much more else of you is going to be compromised. So much more else is going to be compromised. Here it is that Israel is struggling now to defend itself against a territory that is shooting at them that was once literally entirely theirs. They allowed Gaza to be given over entirely to the Palestinians. And now today they are facing an even more squeezed front. Like they have made themselves more put in a corner than they originally were because of that original compromise. That original settle has put them in harm's way even further. Because they are Israel and the people of God, they will always be prospered, meaning that they will always look good in comparison to the surrounding nations. They will always be salivated after. Their land will always be salivated after because God makes them prosperous. Everywhere you go, everywhere Jews are at, corporations are thriving in this world. Everywhere Jews are at in the world, there are successful entire ecosystems. There are some of the most excellent businessmen, has got the most Nobel Prizes in the world out of any country. And look how tiny it is. So it evidences that God has chosen them as a people, and he has highly favored them to a place of making them very fruitful everywhere they go. Everywhere they go. So the level of success and prosperity of the Jews. Like I was listening to some anti-Semitic rando complaining about how it is that the like multiple companies in America, especially within the pharmaceuticals industry, are run by Jews. They got to run an organization means that you have gathered for yourself qualifications, you have gathered for yourself experience, you are good enough to actually run an ecosystem, an establishment. It does not mean that you are favored just because you're Jewish. Now that you are envying, coveting them, you are salivating after them, you want to take them over, you want to remove them from boards of directors, you want to remove them from running companies, you want to remove them from building infrastructure in your land, you want to remove them from a big, like what? It's like grabbing goodness gracious, it's like grabbing an Einstein, and simply because he's Jewish, refusing that he should come up with the theory of relativity. What are you doing? Last time I checked, that's what happened with black people. Just because they were black, they didn't let us publish novels in our names. Just because we were black, they refused to let us study science and math degrees at some point. So if you're going to refuse a person to thrive and be successful in society purely because of what religion they belong to, on that day you're being as archaic as a systematic oppression for black people. You are being as archaic as a racist in the 18th century. But they don't see it that way with the Jews. So what if they run all of Pfizer? So what if they run all of, you get my point. Like they get to be businessmen and women. And the Lord has so thrived them. If anything, much of the anti-Semitism across the world has precisely been because everywhere they go, they're so good at what they do. What happened to them in Egypt with Joseph, in Joseph's day, was precisely because of that. The Jews were so numerous and they were so gifted. And what they did, that they intimidated the Egyptians until they put them as, they reduced them to slaves and made them Egypt's labor force because they were that good. They were that good. God has always granted them a severity of excellence. Now, when somebody is that excellent, and so therefore they are able to thrive their land, they're able to do as well as they do. When you have squandered your inheritance, you are thoroughly going to salivate now next after them. Because all you do is make like a bulldozer, destroy everything in your wake, and if it is still thriving, alive, and beating, pumping with a heart, releasing blood into the arteries, you're gonna want to kill it too. And that's what the Gaza Stripians, the Hamasians are doing. That's what they're doing. They were given Gaza, and now they want to ransack. So as Christians, we have got to recognize our Gazian nature, in the sense that we got to strip in part of the whole thing that we are as Christians, that we must never let go. Because the moment we let go of that strip, they're going to come for another strip, and then another, and another. They're going to salivate after Jerusalem, and then Tel Aviv, and then, and it, like, literally the rest is history. They will keep on coming at everything of ours, because where you thrive, given that God has given you prosperity, given that you walk in Psalm 1, in all that you do, you prosper. You're like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season. In all you do, you prosper. When you prosper, people salivate after the green land you are flourishing fruit from. They will always want it. And so when you stick with Christ and you bear fruit, the beautiful tree that is bearing these beautiful fruit, there will always be some dude rocking up with a bulldozer trying to bring it down, that he might harvest your fruit when you are in no position to be even brought down, because you got to be rooted and still producing fruit for that land. When you marry an unbeliever, the whole tree gets uprooted, the fruit gets eaten, and then there is nothing left. But when you marry a believer, he picks from the tree so that you can grow fruit next season. That's the difference. So do not give yourself away at all, especially to those of you who feel like you're at the end of yourselves. Only do the statistics in your head. What do I have? I've got a mother who was able to give birth to a healthy baby that is thriving today. Lanza, do you understand? She is 22 and she is growing and she is mighty and she is strengthful. She's full of strength. And she is a human being entirely recognized by this country as a citizen. She is a whole person that was able to grow and be very healthy. When she was 43, and my mom menopaused, meaning that she could have had another 2 children if she wanted in her 40s, in her mid 50s. That's when she was at mid or late 50s when she menopaused, close to 60 basically. That's when my mother finally menopaused. Those are the stats that I have. What stats do you have to look at? What do you have to look at when you feel like you're at the end of yourself? Do you have a mother, a parent that you can compare yourself to? Is there something in your family that is a trend that you can compare yourself to? If that trend extends another 10 years, you have no business worrying today. Tomorrow will worry about itself. Today has enough troubles on its own. Seek ye first the kingdom and its righteousness, and everything else will be added to you. Wait, because God will give you everything you need in order to wait. You have not reached the end of yourself. You can't possibly have reached the end of yourself, because if at all you had reached the end of yourself, the Lord would have given you breakthrough, because he will not suffer you to be tempted beyond what you were able. And if at all you were lingered longer than what was entirely necessary for you, you would have been tended towards evil. So if you incline towards evil before your time is due, on that day, you are following after your desires, and so sin is being bred, and upon it be bred, it will then bring about death. Desire, God tempts no one, but people, because of having desires, allow themselves to be led astray, and then they bring about sin of which, when it is fully grown, brings about death. So don't let your desires lead you into an unequally yoked marriage because you're 37. My goodness, when your grandmother had her last child at 52, and you are out here at 37 freaking out, proper, out here popping out some hairs, like removing them with tweezers, because you're freaking out that you're not married at 37 when your grandmother had a final pregnancy at 52. You need to wake up and smell the coffee in your ecosystem. Use your family member statistics to help you stand strong. I've got a mother who menopaused in her late 50s. I am only 39. Nobody is going to rush me into any marriage. I will not be uprooted as a tree when I'm waiting on somebody that is only going to pick a fruit and so thrive me and prune me and enable me to grow and grow. I don't want to find myself at the age of 43 suddenly meeting a man that is so awesome. And I, however, am now pregnant with my second baby because I was in a rush to walk down the aisle. This random dude from America would have given me that level of post-traumatic stress. I would have been pregnant with his first or second child and found myself violently in love with some other dude that is actually a Christian. It would have inevitably happened. And that's the kind of stuff that causes so much bitterness that you might even want to turn away from God. I had a dream. It was so disturbing, where it is that out of desperation, because they can't get to me, they can't get to me with bring back lost lover, all of these demonic spells that are cast in order to force a person to be with them. Given that they couldn't get to me, they then literally cast a spell to get to my neighbors. In my dream, my neighbors had moved out. There was a white couple that lives next door to us, opposite just this house, Kamona. They're quite a peaceful couple. They appear to be happy. Right. They're just a regular couple. I don't think they're saved because the guy's always smoking. But I don't know. There are Christians that claim that smoke. And they're struggling with the habit, but I don't think they're Christian. However, they're just a peaceful couple. All right, and they're young. They're a young, peaceful couple. They don't look any older than 35 type setup thing. They moved in last year. I had a dream. Prior to them, there was an Indian family living there, and then they lived there for like 5 months, and they left. They moved out, and then prior to them, there was a family that had been there for years. Okay, so there's quite a lot of activity, movement here. They're peaceful, they're cool. There's nothing wrong with them. I had a dream where they had moved out, and in my dream, I was asking myself, why did they move out? And then in my dream, I was thinking, is that house haunted? Why would I get a dream like that? Shortly afterwards, a family moved in. That was like the Addams family, like a witchy family. It was made up of, some wicked family moved in. It was an Indian family that moved in, and they were severely involved in witchcraft, all of them. And I had an understanding in my dream that they would bewitch, that family, the new one that moved in, opposite, right after this other couple moved out. I had an ugly, ominous feeling in my heart that they would bewitch the neighborhood, that they're the kinds of people that, like a coven, if a coven is operating in a geographical location, they will target Christians in that region. They will target neighbors. There will be stealing. There will be miscreants. There will be marauders in the spirit. And this family was made up of Satanists, like devil worshippers, like people that are always just doing rituals in their house. And now, if at all, such a family as that lives next door to a Christian, there will be so much spiritual war in the cosmos and so much affliction on the Christian, perpetually spells sent to them due to the fact that as a believer, you cover some kind of a circumference around you. There's what do you call this? Common grace. Because of the fire or the force field of God's grace anointing around you, you tend to just cover, by mere virtue of being in a particular geographical location, your immediate neighbors. So your next door neighbors are covered by the grace of God that is over you, your own family, the opposite, etc. But if the people in question are actively involved in witchcraft, if they are actively involved in devil worship, they will feel the energy, the force field, the God protection, the God thing that is coming from one house in the diameter, in the circumference, and they will target it, and they will work tooth and nail for it. And I had a dream with a couple that lives here, the young married couple that I believe bought this house because they had just gotten married, moving out. And in my dream, I was like, did they move out because it was haunted? And then another family moved in, and it was an Indian family in particular. When they moved in, they were already setting up some occult paraphernalia in the garden. And in my dream, I was like, okay, whatever. When I woke up from that dream, I asked the Lord, what in the world did that dream mean? Are the couple from next door actually moving out? And not next door, but opposite us. Are they actually moving out? And God was like, no, they're not moving out. They have no intention of moving out, but there is a spell cast to make them move so as to move in another family into that same home that are going to be so heavily involved in darkness that they will pick up your Christianity and they will target you. They will target you. They will literally dedicate their seances in that house. You're never gonna get a week off. You're never gonna get a day off. You're never gonna get a month off. They will literally target you, because if at all a coven is operating in any ecosystem, Christians are destructive to that coven, in that whatever they try to do, it can't succeed. And then now, when you are a family living in a neighborhood and you keep on bewitching and doing spells and like basically just being a menace in that neighborhood, when somebody is coming against that, when they are successfully covering neighbors, when they are successfully thwarting spells from working, when your work is disturbed, you will want to move that Christian out the way. You will want to knock them out. You will think that they are basically a hindrance. So if there is a whole demonic family doing rituals 24 hours a day, it's what they do. Like they were setting up occult paraphernalia in the garden, evidencing that maybe it might even be a family that is consulted. Like as in, they have clients, like customers that come in and pay for evil work to be done on their behalf. And in my dream, they were setting base camp. And I thought nothing of it. But when I woke up, I asked God what in the world that meant. And he was like, there is a plan, a strategy by the occult to drive your neighbors out, to drive the family, the new couple that lives next door out. This couple is so happy that every so often they're always screaming and jumping into a swimming pool. They're content, they're happy. And I saw in my dream that there is a plot to move one of my neighbors out. And so I would imagine that the couple opposite is likely the most credulous, the most gullible, not gullible, but the most sensitive to move out, because they are the most recent occupiers of this particular property. Like the opposite neighbor, the one that lives next door to my mom, right, like right next to our house. It's a sectional title. She's been here for years, and she looks more or less the age of my mom, so evidencing that she very likely also might be, what's the word that I'm looking for, have bought the house. It's possible that the house, she owns it, like it all of it, like she has paid in full. She has finished her mortgage on it, so it's her house. There's no, it's highly unlikely that she would move out. But this couple, this white couple opposite, looks like they're still paying a bond. Like it looks like they bought this place just after getting married. They're a newly married couple. I assume they're married, right? They moved in last year sometime. They appear happy, but their bond is fresh. And because they're young, they are susceptible to moving quite a lot. Young people don't stick around in one place for too long. They're the only ones that make occult sense to move out the way and exchange them for other neighbors. The lady that lives opposite here is retired. She bought this house cash. Yeah, those are the only ones that are surrounding me in the immediate periphery. So they targeted our opposite neighbors, and they don't even live in our complex. They live in the next door complex, but it's right next door to ours. And I had a dream when they had moved out. What the heck? Like, people in the occult are so evil, guys. They're so evil. They're so evil. And I don't even know why they don't get goosebumps when people find them out like this. I told you, they're like a haunting, the grudge. So they want to disturb the peace of the people next door, or to cause them to suddenly develop an interest, a desire to move out, look for a new house, even though they were not planning on leaving, not any minute now anyway. And the people who would then replace them would be a family that is very demon possessed, run a whole coven in their household. Yeah, like I said, it was an Indian family. I'm not saying Indian people, Bayatagata, and just them, but that's who God decided to use in my dream, an Indian family. Maybe that is what it is earmarked to move in, an Indian family in particular, Eloyang, like no man's business. And they wanted next door to me, so as to basically put me at war with my neighbors. Because I'm always praying. I'm always praying and ubiquitously covering all of my neighbors. They are lost. They're in the world, but they're, just ignorantly going through the world. They have got God's common grace covering them through my prayers, through the presence that I keep. Also, the fact that I'm always here 24 hours a day, I never go anywhere, means that there is no time of day when these people would try to cast a spell that I won't be standing up against it. They want to put me at war with next door neighbors, so that I would be under so much attack that I would do anything to get out or commit suicide. Something. I gotta capitulate. I gotta settle. That's the kind of stuff that people in the occult are doing. They keep on going back to the drawing board. They keep on inventing new ways to sin. They keep on pulling out new rabbits out of hats. They keep on trying. Finish me off. Except God showed me. So I stood in the gap. I'm praying like no man's business for the Lord to block the spell from working on my neighbors so they can stay. They must just stay where they're at. Be happy. Continue to thrive. Have babies. And just stay. This morning when I woke up, I looked at like their house, and their sliding door was open. I was like, please don't move out. Do not move out. Because it's going to give me goosebumps, send shivers down my spine to see an Indian family moving in next door. Because I will know that they're involved in darkness, because God will have given me details of what the new neighbors will look like. It'll be an Indian family. Yes, like it, guys. Yes, the people in the occult. People in the occult, like there's no whore, there's no full stop. And I don't even know why, upon being so obsessed with a Christian, they don't wake up and realize that there is power in the name of Jesus. It's the only reason you're that obsessed with believers. So given that they're now trying to derail me through neighbors that are going to put me in a spiritual battle that is going to add insult to my uncomfortable injuries, now do you see why it is that the occult is not worth your while? Do you see how far people are prepared to go? After getting that dream, I had yet another dream of some small little man. Nah, it wasn't just one small little man. It was like 2 or 3 of them. They looked like a combination, like they were hybrids of human beings and some winged animal. And they were charcoal black in color. And they kept on trying to negotiate with me on some garble, but we'll love you. We will take care of you. We will not hurt you. We just want to love you. Just let us. So it's 3 different men trying to negotiate to marry me, even though they've got these whack stats based on my situation, my circumstance. And they're like, you have spoken volumes. We agree. We admit we were wrong. But let us just love you. So now, instead of spells being cast on me by them, they now are trying to get my neighbors to cast spells on me, so I can focus on the spells that are being cast on me by my neighbors, instead of on the wickedness of men that are trying to infiltrate godly women's lives. That's the level of demonic abuse, a demonic attack, demonic activity in the cosmos. And you are still toggling with whether or not to turn to Christ as a human being. I'm going to conquer all of this. I am standing in the gap. Currently, I'm fasting for the spell to not work, so that my neighbors will stay put where they're at. But it must be understood that as a Christian, this is how much people want you. This is how much the devil wants to infiltrate unbelievers into your life. They will use anything and they will stop at nothing to get to you. But yours is to hold on to your Gaza Strip, the proverbial Gaza Strip. Because the moment you let the Gaza Strip go, any minute now, there will be an invasion in the southern part of your country because you are busy making peace deals with the enemy. Friendship with the world is enmity with God. The Lord has come upon the earth not to bring peace but a sword. We must not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. We have no business accommodating darkness, and when we are waiting, it is especially during the height of our sorrow, in our hope being deferred, and so our hearts being made sick. That is when Satan is like, this is the sweet spot. Go in now, because before long, this person is going to get a breakthrough, because God is not going to allow her to stay in this position indefinitely, because it would go against his character, his word. It would make it impossible for her to stay godly. She would tend towards wrongdoing. So given that she is so close to the end of herself, she is therefore close to her breakthrough, meaning that it is now that you gotta do whatever you need to do to derail this woman. So now people be out there trying to give me evil neighbors. That's the occult. They are causing the earth to haunt. You need Christ. Turn to him. Love him. Embrace him. So you can conquer hauntings that other people in the world frankly cannot stand. You, as a Christian, are able to cover even your neighbors. You, as a Christian, are able to cover your family. You, as a Christian, are able to cover yourself. And so you, as a Christian, have a responsibility and a prerogative to always say no to unbelieving infiltration into your life. I hope you've been edified. In the name of Christ, I am signing out, Cran K.